Hi, I'm Aimee, and I'm sitting here with Crista Cowan of Ancestry, the Barefoot Genealogist. And a lot of you know her. You've been seeing her. She's kind of the face of Ancestry. But do you really know how she got here? She's coming up on 20 years with Ancestry in just about 6 months. And I'm really excited to talk to her a little bit about her history and where she's come from and how she got into genealogy. Thank you for doing this with me.
For sure.
So tell me all about you. Tell me about how you got into genealogy and the path that brought you to Ancestry and doing the things that you're doing.
Yeah, well, so my hero origin story, as it were, my parents were both born and raised in Los Angeles, and they did not know each other until they, started dating and then got married very quickly, went away to BYU to go to school. And then I was born, shortly thereafter. And so they're, fairly newlyweds, new baby. They're in 2 different majors at a new college in a state away from their family. They never saw each other. And so my mom made the decision that they needed to take 1 class together every semester for their last few semesters of school. And they chose a family history class because that's available at BYU because there's a program for that there. And so they took a family history class together every semester, and they would take me with them to class because they couldn't trade me off. And then one Friday a month, they would drive up to Salt Lake City to, the family history library wasn't there, it was in a different building at the time, but they would shove my baby carrier under a microfilm reader, and they would spend their Friday once a month doing family history. So my parents take full credit for my career now. They're convinced that is what got me started. But after they graduated, they moved back to California, and then they started growing their family, and family history was always kind of a part of our lives, but it wasn't a focus of our lives. So I was raised with family stories. I was raised with ancestors' pictures on the walls. I was raised going to family reunions. But when I turned 12, my parents sent me away to computer camp, which as a 6th grade girl in the 1980s
Kill me now.
was the worst thing that could have happened to me. I wanted to go to dance camp. I was very angry with them. So after this 2-week computer camp, I came home, and my dad had bought a shiny brand new Compact 64 computer, and he had installed the very first DOS-based genealogy program on that computer, and he picked up the big box of family history that he and my mom had been lugging around for the first 15 years of their marriage, and he set it on the desk next to me, and he said, "Okay, I need you to take all of that and put it in there." Because
so you're the one that did it.
So I'm the one who basically did all the data entry of the family genealogy that they had been collecting from family members, and that was kind of where I fell in love. I fell in love with these people. I fell in love with the stories. I fell in love with the puzzle of putting it all together. I also started noticing things. So my dad always kind of sat at a desk next to mine, and that's what I did for the next 4 years of growing up, as I was kind of working through those awkward middle school years and into high school. And on a Friday night when I was so sad I didn't have a date, I would sit down with my family history. And I would have conversations with my dad about it. I'd say, we sure come from a lot of one-child families on your side of the family. And he'd chuckle and say, "No, my aunt just only cared about who the parents were. She didn't care about who the siblings were." It's, "Oh, okay." And so I learned some of my first lessons there. And that was kind of the end of it. When I went to college, I was like, okay, that was nice. And it never occurred to me that genealogy could be a career. So I actually went to school in business and was in software for the first part of my career. And when I was about 28, 29 years old, I was very dissatisfied with my career path. And so I started looking around, and I had kept up family history as a little bit of a hobby, but I realized I had roommates and friends who were always asking me for help. And I would go up to Salt Lake to the family history library with them, once every month or two. And
coach 'em.
Yeah, and I loved that. I loved that teaching, and I loved helping people. And so I thought, I wonder if I could do this full time. So I quit my job, much to my mother's chagrin. Almost 30 years old, and I was starting all over again. And I started my own genealogy research firm. And I started by advertising in my aunt's store in Los Angeles. She owned a costume and gift shop, and she let me put up a little display. And all of a sudden I had a whole bunch of Jewish clients, and I didn't know how to do Jewish family history research.
So you learned quick.
And that's what happens in family history, right?
True.
Whether it's your own family tree or somebody else's.
So true.
Sometimes you take a left turn, and all of a sudden you've got an ancestor from Ireland, and now you've got to learn how to do Irish research.
Absolutely.
So I learned, and I did my own research for a couple of years, and then a job opening came available at Ancestry, and I thought, I want to learn that side of the industry. And I fully intended to only work for Ancestry for 6 months. And here we are 20 years later.
That's so great.
So that was kind of my circuitous path into family history, but I've continued to learn, and there's always something new to learn. It's why I come to conferences like this one, and I think that's important to continue that education, because you never know where your family history is going to take you. You also never know where the technology is going, and you have to kind of keep abreast of all of that as well.
Yeah, I always say the more you know you don't know, particularly in genealogy, because nobody can be an expert on everything. It's impossible. And so, and that is one of the things I love about it too. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly having the opportunity to discover new things. And it's good for me, it's good for my brain, and it makes me happy.
Yeah.
So I love that. Well, they're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And I want to put a plug in there, because you have your pajamas, because you talked about coaching, and it made me think, I started coaching not that long ago, and I probably have some slots open. They kind of open and close, but if you want to be coached by me, you can check out the link in the video below. But Crista also has her pajamas and pedigrees. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so just a few months ago, I just decided I'm doing research several nights a month anyway. Why not just turn on my Zoom camera and let people watch me research? And I didn't know if people would want to or not. It turns out they do. So if you just go to pajamasandpedigrees.com, you can learn how to be a part of that community.
Well, that's great. I'll put a link for that below as well. So if you need any help, if you're feeling like you're needing some help, then check out one of our options, and maybe we can help you along your way, because it's made such a difference, I know, in both of our lives. We both really love what we do. And I have never really found anybody that hasn't really started to get into genealogy and really loved it. The opportunity to find their family, and it just is, it's difficult to explain in words what that means to people as they find their family. So we want to help you. So hopefully you can do your family history and find your relatives, because it does make all the difference in the world.
It does, absolutely.
Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you.
Check out these other videos for some more educational tutorials, and have a great day.